An unfortunate loss continues to set the tone for who the Nuggets are going to be post All-Star break. Welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll. I'm Ryan Blackburn. Thank you so much for tuning into the show here at Mile High Sports. Always appreciate the love and support on the podcast, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. On today's show, we are going to discuss the loss to Golden State yesterday, a pretty poor showing overall for Denver. Unsurprising given the 3-4 that they had, the matinee start that they had. Like, I don't blame them for not necessarily providing their best effort. And that really manifested at the beginning of the game. But at the end of the game, you also had an opportunity to win it. And then you give up a 15-0 run in the middle of the fourth quarter, put yourself behind the 8 ball. And then even after that, can't get enough stops to get back into the game. There's a lot to discuss. There's a lot to criticize. But I do think that some context does need to be applied as well, including stuff that the Nuggets are having internally and externally, stuff that they can and can't control, that is understandably normalizing this and making it reasonable that they drop a road game on the third and 4 days. It's not the end of the world, but also would be nice if they could get some of these wins to make up the difference for the fact that they haven't been good over the course of the last 2 months. They have been average. We'll talk about the game first, then we're going to talk about Denver's dependency on Aaron Gordon in the second segment, and then we will talk about the Western Conference around them in the third segment and just some of the issues that they have had, some of the issues that they have faced, and some things that are still benefiting them, despite the fact that it hasn't been complete. It's been a little bit weird, a little bit weird around them. And then other teams are not taking on the opportunity to take over for the Denver Nuggets. Let's start with this. In this game yesterday that the Denver Nuggets played, they lose 128 to 117, excuse me. Nikola Jokic had a great game statistically. I'll start off with that. 35 points, 20 rebounds, 12 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Did have 5 turnovers, but was a -6 in this game. Not entirely because of things that happened around him. There were some things that he did. There were some things that he didn't do that I think are pretty notable. But you look at that line and you look at the production, and the first place that I go to in a lot of these times is, man, the numbers are still so crazy with him that you need to contextualize it. You need to understand the way that Denver's trying to orient everything. They're playing through him on every single thing. And their offense was good enough to at least be in the game, and then had a pretty strong weakness towards that fourth quarter. And in the middle of that fourth quarter, that really ended up losing it for them. But it's the defense that you have to go to. And it's hard to do this because I'm watching the game. I'm trying to evaluate it, trying to share why things happened a certain way that they did. The 4 turnovers in a row, one by Jokic, then one by Christian Brown, then 2 by Jamal Murray in the middle of that fourth quarter were the straw that broke the camel's back. But before that, in the first quarter, Jokic was the key reason why Denver was down. It wasn't his numbers were crazy. He had 7 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. It was insane what he was doing. The passes that he's throwing were unbelievable. But the reason the Nuggets gave up 39 points defensively was because of Jokic's inability to cover on the perimeter and cover a guy like Al Horford, who had 22 points, 8 of 11 from the field, and 6 of 7 from 3. This game looks a little bit different, feels a little bit different if he doesn't hit some of those shots, obviously, but he did. And the reason why he got those shots was because Jokic gave them up. And that is very tough to contextualize between the numbers that you're seeing from Joker and the overall level of production and efficiency and impact and things of that nature. Every single number that you look at shows that Jokic is the best player in the NBA, basically. But that is one And when you're actually watching these games, it's his unwillingness to get out of the paint on the defensive end and get out and contest in some of these situations that, like, the Warriors were ready for this game, and Jokic wasn't ready to contest. He was just giving up a lot of these open shots. And again, not his fault, because a lot of, like, not all his fault. Let me say that. There's a lot of other guys that are missing rotations, that are not executing well defensively. Jamal Murray's been bad on that end for a couple months. Um, Christian Brown has been pretty good, but I don't think that yesterday, certainly he was good enough in his own right. Um, Tim Hardaway Jr. made a lot of mistakes defensively. Julian Strawther made a lot of mistakes defensively. Spencer Jones had a really bad first half, really good second half. Jonas Valanciunas, bad defensively. There's a lot of guys that I think you can point to, and the reason why Denver gives up 128 is not because of one player. But at the core of Denver's defensive issues on a consistent basis, to me, is the fact that they've got two centers in Jokic and Valanciunas who are mostly unwilling to get out of the paint. And on a night like, or on a day like yesterday, where you're facing the team that has the most three-point attempts, even without Steph Curry, even without Draymond Green out there, like, Draymond's not going to take a whole bunch of shots, but who was he replaced by? A center who was more than happy to take the open shots that he was given. And Denver allowed them to get into a rhythm. Jokic allowed them to get into a rhythm. He allowed his matchup to get into a rhythm. It didn't hurt them in the Blazers game, but, like, he allowed Donovan Clingan to take wide open threes. And, like, Donovan Clingan is not a great shooter. You know who's also not a great shooter this year? Al Horford. But he got open rhythm threes and is a veteran and understands that this is the assignment. This is what you're supposed to do. And that was the key reason why Denver gave up the shots that they did. And, like, they've just got to get that cleaned up. But then you also talk about like the burden that Jokic carries on the offensive end. I don't expect him to give amazing, great effort on the defensive end all the time. I expect other guys to be able to cover for him in some of these situations. And the fact is that Denver doesn't have the guys to do that right now. Without Aaron Gordon, without Peyton Watson, they have been vulnerable on a consistent basis. And it just, to me, seems like Denver has this massive dependency on AG. And I've got some numbers to back it up in the second segment. We'll definitely talk about that for sure. But yeah, I'm frustrated. If you're a Nuggets fan, you have to be frustrated about this, because despite the fact that Denver gave up the double-digit lead, gave up a double-digit lead to Golden State in the first quarter, they still worked it back. Second and third quarter, they were great. Jokic in particular was amazing. There were a lot of guys. I thought that Christian Brown helped keep them in the game on an offensive basis. One of the big reasons why Jokic had 12 assists and 8 in the first quarter was because Christian Brown making these amazing cuts. Julian Strawther had a couple of early plays that definitely worked out to his favor. Jamal Murray was better, certainly, in the first three quarters than he was in the fourth. Cam Johnson got to the free throw line. Other guys like Bruce Brown made some very important threes. One of the passes that Jokic made in the third quarter, I believe, a no-looker to Bruce Brown in the right corner that Bruce cans. And Bruce, the plus-minus doesn't reflect it. -17, but he played great in the game yesterday and deserves a ton of credit for the way that he has turned around his season from one of the least impactful players in the NBA from a statistical analytics standpoint to one of the guys that Denver they have to go to in these cases, because he is better in a lot of these moments than some of Denver's guys, some of Denver's starters. And so Bruce has done a really great job. 3 steals yesterday, 12 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, was really good. Tim Hardaway was bad by contrast. Spencer Jones, pretty unimpactful. He did have one good defensive play, but other than that, meh. Jonas Valanciunas, 3 rebounds in 12 minutes. When he's like when you're talking about the advantages that Denver should have when they play 2 centers, Denver should be able to win the rebounding battle. They should be able to avoid some of the turnovers and make it pretty easy. Valanciunas, 3 of 7. It's not the efficiency that you need from somebody who has a size mismatch like that. Grabbed 3 total rebounds in that time. Jokic grabbed 20 in 36 minutes. Like, Valanciunas and the Nuggets needed to control the glass, and they just didn't. They didn't do a good enough job of either getting on the offensive glass or controlling the defensive glass. Like both of those things, I think could have been better for Denver. But the real key to me was, again, the clutch in the fourth quarter. Denver screwed it up. Again, like, I don't understand what the inability to execute is. Denver has struggled to do this on a consistent basis throughout the year when they have everybody healthy, let alone when they have just a couple of guys healthy. But the fact is that the Jokic Murray two-man game needs to be better in these moments in terms of stabilizing. And Mad Dog says coaching in the comments here. I don't agree. I understand why people, like, there are some things that I think you could be critical of David Adelman for. Sometimes the rotations are a little bit shaky. I do think that tethering Jokic and Murray together is not good in a situation where Aaron Gordon is out, where you need somebody who can like continue to stabilize. And those guys were sitting at the scorer's table for too long. There needed to be a timeout, etc. Though momentum was gone by the time those guys got back in, and then they contributed to their own demise. So like everybody is at fault here. Coaching, probably not good enough. And defensively, I mean, holy cow. If you're talking about getting guys to play hard and getting guys to buy into your defensive scheme and executing it well, Denver's failed on that regard, like for much of the season. But like in the clutch, you're supposed to be able to really amp that effort up to put guys into better positions to succeed. And when you have the opportunities in your hands, make the shots that count. That's why you pay Jokic and Murray the big bucks. And to this point, Murray made mistakes in this particular game. His mistakes were critical. The two turnovers were bad. Like one of them basically getting trapped at half court and then making a horrible pass. And it looked like 2024 all over again when that was happening. Jokic also making mistakes throughout the entire season. Clutch has been an issue for him specifically. He's shooting like 25% from three in the clutch, not necessarily putting up a great assist to turnover ratio. The Nuggets as a team are in the bottom 10 in assist to turnover ratio, and yet their offense is mostly not the issue. Like they're still seventh in the entire NBA in clutch offense. Like it's not that bad. But it's the defense, as we all know. 29th in defensive rating in the clutch. Again, they just could not find a way to get stops. They allowed Brandon Pajimski, of all people, to kill them in the clutch. And it just seems to me like whatever it is, whether it's the front side rotations, whether it's the man on defense, whether it's the scheme and then the finishing of the play, like Jamal gave up a horrible weak side box out or lack of box out, and then Brandon Pajimski crashes from the weak side and grabs an offensive rebound and tips it in. Denver just makes mistakes. They make execution mistakes over and over again. And having that on a consistent basis makes things very difficult. Denver is... This is not what Denver's identity should be. This is not what it has been over the course of the last 5 seasons. Even when things have gone poorly, even when the game is coming down to the wire because Denver was in it when they shouldn't have been in it, when they should have been up by 15 or 20. Like, even when it comes down in, like, the identity for Denver is that they lock in those late moments, find a way to eke it out, and they just make enough plays at the end because they are better than you in the clutch. That has always been Denver's mentality. Ask any team. Ask any fan base, especially the Lakers. Like, Denver has just not executed to that level this year. And whether it is the offense or the defense or the coaching or the execution of the two-man game, the players around the two-man game, there's a lot of elements. There's a lot of changing factors. But the reality is that Denver has not been good enough in these moments, and it has cost them games. And they are in this battle with the 3rd through 6th seeds. Currently, they are 3rd, but they are very close to being 6th. And they are in that battle because they cannot execute in the clutch, because the margins that they have had in previous seasons no longer exist and are actually working against them this year. And that is why they have struggled so much. So I don't know what to do about it. One of the big reasons why has been sitting on the sidelines over the course of these last few weeks and then for much of the season. When we come back, we're going to talk about Aaron Gordon. We're going to talk about Denver and their overall level of dependency on Aaron Gordon, which is both good and bad because he's really good when he's out there, but also Denver is really struggling when he's not out there, and they have to find a way to improve upon that. We'll be right back here next on Pickaxe and Roll. But first, folks, want to tell you a little bit about the Vimos app. If you want to make your nights out easier, more productive, and more fun, you should absolutely consider the Vimos app. In one app platform, a digital wallet platform, consumers can pay for their food, their drinks, redeem offers, set up events, and do contactless payments. You can even scan in your ID. You do not have to hand anybody your own physical ID. All you have to do is scan the Vimos app, show that to the folks that have the Vimos app set up, and it allows you to do contactless payments. It works really well for business owners as well. Vimos helps manage their security, verification, and risk all on one platform. So make sure to check out the Vimos app, whether you're a consumer or an owner and an owner of a business. Check out the Vimos app, spelled VEMOS, and make sure to have a better night out. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right. We are back, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Let's talk about Aaron Gordon now. Let's talk about Aaron Gordon and some of the issues that the Nuggets are now facing because they don't have Aaron Gordon out there. Over the course of the last 2 seasons, Aaron Gordon's missed a lot of time. It's not like he's trying to. There's nobody who's trying to. Sometimes guys just get hurt, and that's just how it goes. This season, Aaron Gordon has played 23 games. The Nuggets have played 58. That's a lot of games missed. Previous season, Aaron Gordon played 51 games. The Nuggets played 82. So he missed 31 games there. He's now already missed 35 games. He's missed more games this year than he did at any point last season. And in any particular year, the most amount of games that he has ever missed in his career is 35 in his rookie season, back when he was a 19-year-old kid. Like, this is a new thing. This is the most time that he has ever missed in his entire career, and it is clearly putting a lot of strain on the Nuggets. They extended his contract for a reason. They value him for a reason. He is the player that they traded for in order to be the glue in between the Jokic-Murray two-man game. And so you want to know why Denver's had some of the issues? Not all of it is the fact that they've missed Aaron Gordon, but I would wager that some of it is. And so if we go through some of the numbers over the course of the last 2 years, this data is via Data Baller, which is a really good platform. It does a lot of interesting things in terms of different matchup data, in terms of on-off data. But the one I am currently showing on the screen is the on-off numbers for all 3 of Jokic, Murray, and Gordon. This is in order of minutes played. And this one shows that when Jokic and Murray are on and they are playing without Aaron Gordon, the Nuggets are plus 9.6 points per 100 possessions. They're still a really elite team. They're overall, over the course of the last 2 seasons, they have found ways. Last year, it was in part due to Russell Westbrook really stepping up. Michael Porter Jr., of course, did a great job stepping up at the power forward spot in the regular season. And then this year, when Cam Johnson's been out there, when Peyton Watson's been out there, when other guys have Spencer Jones most certainly has been a major factor here. Like those guys have found a way to help survive without Aaron Gordon, but it's just surviving. It's not thriving overall. You can see that when Jokic is out there without those two guys, the team is still really good. When Murray is out there without those two guys over the last 2 years, has not been good. It's actually been negative, but it's not as negative as it could be because if you look at this one, when all three are missing, minus 17.1 points per 100 possessions. The offense goes off a crater. The defense does not get better. It actually gets worse when Jokic isn't out there. It's very clear that Denver sucks when they don't have their main guys. Shockingly so. This is not me breaking news. But what I wanted to show most specifically, you see Gordon and Jokic there. When they're without Murray, they're still an elite team. When Murray and Gordon are out there without Jokic, they're still really good. Like plus 5.2 net rating is still really good. The offense shines. The defense is a little bit worse because you're likely playing small in a lot of these cases. But like this team is still all right. And when Gordon is out there without either of the two best players, still only minus 4.4. That's not that bad. Like certainly better than minus 17. Here's what happens when you do a luck adjustment for all of these numbers. This is when like you reduce the luck down, and if there's outlier 3-point shooting either direction on offense or defense, this is what happens when you do at least a 50% luck adjustment, which is a really good slider that Databaller has. Murray and Jokic, really good duo, even without Aaron Gordon. But Murray, Gordon, and Jokic, they're still amazing when they are all together. And the defense gets better when all three of those guys are on the floor. That's even with Jokic and Murray are out there. So they have the capacity to play decent defense. Like even when Jokic is out, look at the defensive numbers when those guys are out there. It's when Jokic and Murray are on the floor together over the course of these last two seasons that the defense has a 120 defensive rating. The offense is still great, but they are so dependent on the fact that their offense is great because their defense is horrible for the most part. So this is when the luck adjustment happens for the other minutes as well. When Gordon and Jokic are out there without Murray, still an absolutely elite team, but there's only 474 minutes over the course of this last year and a half because Gordon has not been on the floor. And like, it's not been good enough. Not been good enough overall for Denver. And they're clearly super dependent on Gordon being out there. And you can understand why, right? Like, it's not just like, think about the sets that Denver runs, whether it's the two-man game or horns or whatever. Like, they'll run a lot of stuff where the ball gets entered into the elbow, and then like Gordon and Murray have some screening actions. Right now, it's been Murray and Brown that have been involved in most of those actions. Maybe it's a little bit of Cam Johnson, but for the most part, like, Gordon is a mismatch nightmare if he gets switched onto a guard. Christian Braun is not. Christian Braun is a little bit undersized for when comparing to Aaron Gordon. Obviously, Gordon is a better, more powerful athlete and a better finisher around the rim in a lot of those cases. Brown is still a very great finisher on the rim, and he did a really good job in these last couple of games in particular. I've actually been very impressed with the way that Christian Braun has played overall during this stretch. But it's clear that like Denver is dependent in a lot of these situations. Like Cam Johnson in this last game went 1 of 7 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. He did go 7 of 7 from the line, which was nice. Julian Strawther, 2 of 7 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. Also went 2 of 2 from the line. But Denver, in a lot of those situations, they'd have an easy outlet at the rim. And they shot 46% as a team from the field, 26% from 3. Sometimes when the three's not falling, especially when you're tired, especially if you're on short rest, you got to go get to the rim. You got to go get some fouls. And Gordon would be able to do that. Absolutely 100% on the offensive end. And then on the defensive end, he does a really good job of covering for Jokic. There's no doubt about it. The data backs it up en masse. Like there's no player on the Nuggets that does a better job of covering for Jokic defensively than Aaron Gordon. And it's because he has the size, he has the smarts, he has the rebounding talent, and he has the switchability onto the perimeter. There's plenty of things that he does. And the Nuggets have not been able to fully embraced the idea of being able to like replace him. They've done a good enough job at various points. Spencer Jones, when he was starting, I do think that Spencer Jones should probably go back to starting. That would be my goal if I were Denver. The problem is that Spencer Jones has a piece of the contract that they do not want to start him for more than like 41 games overall, because then it raises his qualifying offer to a very high level that they do not want to have to pay. They would rather him be a lower qualifying offer to try to beat. It's not cheap. It's like actually within the confines of what they have to do. But like, it is cheap. Let's be honest. It is cheap. But there's so much stuff there in terms of like, they don't have the size, they don't have the physicality. One of the factors that they have always had at their disposal when you've got Jokic and Gordon out there is that they abuse teams going to the paint, abuse teams going to the rim. And yesterday against the Warriors, they did do that as well. Like overall points of the paint, Denver won that 60-46. They also got to the free throw line 29 times and made 25 free throws. They had a lot of easy shots. They needed even more. They just did. And more than that, they needed to be able to cut some of the things off defensively that the Warriors were doing. They needed to have better rotations, more crisp rotations, not make as many mistakes. And they needed to make sure to not give up as many offensive rebounds as they did. They only gave up 9, but it felt like every time that they gave one up, it led to immediate points. So, yeah, Denver's got a lot of question marks because Aaron Gordon is out. And this is the point that I want to make, the larger point, because I'm saying a lot of things. Yeah, Aaron Gordon is important. Of course, you know that. Of course, you understand that. I think this has long-term applications for the Nuggets. I think that the Nuggets are at this point, like because of the last 2 years, like there's no guarantee that Gordon is going to get hurt to this degree going forward. There's not a guarantee. But I do think it's also, again, a possibility. And if you are trying to rest guys during the regular season, if you are trying to make sure that everybody's healthy for the playoffs, you're not trying to overplay guys, this is a situation that will come up again. Not possibly, like it will come up again. I don't think that Gordon is ever going to play 70 games again. Could he play 65? Maybe. Could he play 60? Yeah, probably. Could he play under 60 again? In which case he's missing over a quarter of the season that you have to make up for? Yeah, probably. Like this is going to be something that happens again for Denver, whether they like whatever moves they make, like if they want to maintain their championship core, which is Jokic, Murray, Gordon, and then building around those guys with other auxiliary pieces, which Christian Brown is an auxiliary piece. Cam Johnson's an auxiliary piece. Peyton Watson's an auxiliary piece. They might end up being the core, but there's no guarantee. If you want to build around those 3 guys, Jokic, Murray, Gordon, there needs to be another player on the roster that can replace his skill set. And they need to be able to do it well. This year, the 3 guys that were the candidates, Zeke Naji, Deron Holmes, and Spencer Jones. Zeke Naji has proven that the Nuggets are not going to trust him. They're just not going to play him in this situation. They've had opportunities over the course of these last 3 games, gone with a 9-man rotation. They have played more minutes with Christian Brown at power forward than they have with Zeke Naji at power forward so far this season. That's not good. That's not a great endorsement of Zeke Naji's skill set and the Nuggets' belief that he could be this role for them. They just don't want to do that. Don't take it from me. Like, look at the numbers. Look at the trends. Look at what they've decided to do. Deron Holmes, they have not trusted at all this season. He's been the 15th man, the 16th man the entire season. They've played a 2-way guy over him and Spencer Jones. They've played Zeke Naji over him. They've gone small over him. They have gone with Hunter Tyson over him before Hunter Tyson got moved. Like, absolutely, like Deron Holmes was a candidate for this, but then was clearly not ready, at least in their eyes. So he has to improve going forward. There is no, like that's probably the candidate that you're looking at. Can it be Deron Holmes? If you do not believe that it can be Deron Holmes, you got to find somebody else. Spencer Jones, he has that skill set in his bag. Like, he has done a decent enough job. He is not the athlete and the vertical athlete and the finisher around the rim that they have needed. He is the corner three-point shooter and the defensive option that they have needed. But he has not quite been the athlete and the physical, like, defense, not defensive, but like the above the rim presence and the guy who can connect everything in that regard. He has done some good things. I am surprised that they have not started him. Maybe this is not a conversation next year after he gets into year 3 and they have figured out this qualifying offer situation that they've now put themselves in. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. I kind of think that they should have Spencer Jones in this lineup and try to take some of the physical pressure off of some of these other guys. But I'm not the coach. We've got Cedric with the super chat. Says, CB bad, Yoke can't beat SGA, trade Zeke, it sucks. I'll run through each of those initially. 1, Christian Braun is not bad. Christian Braun's actually been pretty good over the course of these last few weeks. He has made a lot of steps forward. He looks a lot more like the player that he was. 2, Yoke can't beat SGA. They were very close to beating them last year. Will they? I don't know. Like, SGA and the Thunder look like they are in a different place. If SGA is dealing with an ab injury in the playoffs and isn't at his best, there's a possibility like that's clearly on the table at this point. They'll try to be like conscientious with him. And Denver, like, even without SGA out there, or maybe even with SGA at 80%, there's a possibility they can't beat OKC anyway because OKC is that great of a team. But do they have a shot? Absolutely. And when you say can't, that's bad. That's wrong. Trade Zeke? Sure. Like, they should have done that. They should have done that multiple times. They can't. They literally cannot. There is no market. There has not been a market. It sucks. I agree. It sucks. This is very frustrating. So I get it. Okay. With that out of the way, let's take another break. When we come back, we are going to discuss the actual reality here that the actual reality that Denver has been fine in the West, that the West has not been good enough around them to take advantage of their misdeeds. There's plenty of stuff, I think, for people to still be confident about in the Western Conference. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll.
Welcome, everyone, to Folsom Field here in Boulder, Colorado. Right now is the epicenter of college football.
I'll never forget, never, Ralphie running out and around the field.
Boulder is always a scene nowadays.
I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, I want to play here.
There's so much history on this field.
Just electric. The whole place goes wild.
It gives me the chills to be able to come back here and be a part of something great.
All right, final segment, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. We got another super chat from Cedric. Thank you for the super chats, my guy. No, Ryan, CB is bad, IMO. Jokic still needs help. If you know, you know. Of course, Jokic needs help. Of course, like, absolutely. They're gonna need help. That's the thing. Like, SGA and OKC, they gave him the help that was necessary. They gave him a transcendent defensive group that he can contribute to, but also can be hidden by at times because they've got so many different guys that can get at the point of attack, that can rotate on the backside. There's plenty of reasons for that. So I agree. Now, if you say Christian Braun is bad, I probably won't be able to change your mind. I think that Christian Braun has looked pretty good. I think that he has done exactly what he's been asked to do over the course of these last few games. He made a 3 in the first quarter of this last game. Now, 1 of 4 from 3. I like that he has been attempting them more. I hope that he attempts at least 3 3-pointers every single game. Every single game. I think it is mandatory because he's got to get his 3-point shot ready for the playoffs. So that is an aspect that he needs to be better at. 3 turnovers was abnormal, but he had 18 points on 11 shots yesterday. Like, he was pretty efficient. He was pretty solid. It's just there's a lot of stuff going on around him that has not been good. Another super chat from Ken Patterson with the 2. Thank you for that. P-Watt can create own shots that CB can't. P-Watt is better. He might be better. Like, I'm not gonna argue that P-Watt hasn't been better this year. There's no doubt that P-Watt has been better this year. But in terms of what the Nuggets need, in terms of what they have, like, I actually think that Christian's been way better defensively than Peyton Watson has been this year. Now, Peyton's gotten a lot of stocks. He's gotten a lot of steals and blocks and things of that nature. Christian, I think, has been more fundamental on the defensive end, has been a little bit better in terms of cutting off what the Nuggets have wanted to do. But there are some clutch numbers that I think, like, P-Watt's been really good defensively in the clutch. He's made a lot of plays, a lot of really important things. And so at some point, I think that Denver is going to get to a Murray, Christian, Peyton Watson, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic lineup on a pretty consistent basis for their clutch. They're going to put their 3 best defenders out there in the clutch and then have Jokic and Murray. And I think that that's going to help them in a lot of ways. Now, is that going to ruin the spacing? Like, you would want Aaron Gordon in the dunker spot. Can you have Aaron Gordon in the dunker spot if you have Christian Brown and Peyton Watson out there? Who knows? It's a lot of pressure to put on those guys. And then another super chat from Mr. Exquisite Nugget. CB can't guard SGA, Ryan. How about that? Second round exit. Well, Christian was not out there for this last OKC beatdown that the Nuggets suffered, and Peyton Watson was. So, like, Peyton Watson can't really guard SGA, I don't think, or certainly didn't in that particular matchup. There is plenty of things for Denver to have to figure out, and that is one of them. But the good news is that, in theory, Denver has the tools in the toolbox to be able to match up and pick and choose some of these things with different matchups with different teams and in different situations. A Nuggets starting lineup, in theory, that is, like, it's Jokic, Murray, Christian Brown, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon. Like, that's a pretty good lineup. It's actually a really good lineup. So it's one of the best in the NBA, and that doesn't even include Peyton Watson. It doesn't include Spencer Jones, who I think has been really solid, and then Tim Hardaway and Bruce Brown, who has been, like, Bruce has been really great over the course of these last few weeks and sort of, like, recovering despite the fact that around him things have not been going well. I do think that Bruce has been pretty solid over the course of this time and made a lot of progress. Yeah, still some things to think about. Okay, final thing here before we get out of here. The Western Conference standings are still, to me, a mystery. It's a mystery to me why some of these teams have not been able to figure out their stuff. I'm gonna put a screenshot up in the window here. Just give me just a little second. I didn't think I was going to actually put up a screenshot, but yeah, let's do this here. Okay. Over the course of this year, it was Denver and San Antonio that were battling for the 2 seed. I think that battle is over. Denver's got 6 additional losses. They are not going to be able to catch San Antonio. Denver has 24 games remaining. You would have, like, San Antonio would have to go 500, which is, for them, it would be 13-13. So that's 53 wins. That would mean that Denver would have to go 17-7 over the course of the last 24 games for them. I do not think they're going 17-7 at this point. I did predict that they would go 18-9 post All-Star break, but I don't think that they can do that. And if they do, it would mean that San Antonio would have to get to 500. And I think that San Antonio will be better than 500 over the course of their final 26 games. So I think that Denver is probably locked into this 3-6 bracket, in which case, like, Houston at 21 losses, they have 1 fewer loss than Denver does, but Denver's got 2 more wins. They're winning by percentage points here. Houston has not been that great. They have a lot of concerns, but they do have, like, actually there's a couple of things that are pulling in different directions here for Houston. One is that they have very few rest games. They actually have 0 rest advantage games remaining on their schedule. But the other factor is that they have the 6th easiest schedule with regard to strength of schedule. So Houston, depending on the rest and the travel and things of that nature, there are going to be factors that I think keep them there. They have 11 away games remaining, and they have a fair amount of home games remaining. They've got, I think, 16 home games and 11 road games. So it's not that bad from a travel perspective. I think that Houston's going to be pretty good, and I think that they could pass Denver. I also think that the Lakers could pass Denver. I don't think it's a guarantee, obviously, but they could pass Denver. They've got a pretty average remaining strength of schedule. The two Nuggets games versus the Lakers are the most important games. They are the most important games remaining for the Nuggets at this point. And to me, like those are the ones that I circled, not just because it's the Lakers, but because if Denver wants to stay in the top four, if they want to have home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs, like I think that there is merit, I think, to getting the 3 seed and wanting to stay like on the periphery of that OKC conversation. You want the 3 seed. You'd rather play San Antonio in the second round than you would play OKC. There's a possibility that the Spurs get upset as well. Like, could the Suns be the team that upsets San Antonio? Sure. If Minnesota falls to 7, like it's not out of the possibility. They're only 2 games up on the Phoenix Suns for 7th. Like, if the T-Wolves fall, and you've got T-Wolves versus Spurs. The Spurs have never been in a playoff environment like this before. And the T-Wolves, I think, that's a really tough matchup for the Spurs. Like, I know that Wemby is going to do a lot of crazy things, but Julius Randle being physical with him, and then Rudy Gobert also being kind of a rim protector and somebody who can, like, especially if you've got another non-shooter on the floor, you have him guard like Steph Castle or somebody like that, him guard Dylan Harper. And then he could be a rim protector in a lot of those situations. Like, there's no guarantee that the Spurs make it out of round 1. They probably will. But if that's the case, if you're Denver, you'd rather play the Spurs than you would play the Thunder. And then if you're like, the thing about avoiding the Thunder in the second round is the Thunder are likely going to play a team that's in the 8th seed right now, whether it's the Warriors or the Blazers or the Clippers or whoever. Maybe it's the Suns. The Thunder would, if they play one of those teams, it's going to be a 4-0 or 4-1 easy round for them. And so they will have played an easy round in preparation for a round against the Nuggets at the 4-5. You do not want that to happen. You want to be in the 3, and you want the previous round for OKC to be really difficult. It also just kicks that can down the road. Maybe Shea gets an injury. Maybe Chet gets an injury. Somebody is out dealing with something, just like the Nuggets were dealing with something last year. That's what you want if you're Denver. But I'm looking at this, and like somehow Denver, despite the fact that they have not been very good, like they've been playing 500 basketball for much of the season. They got off to a really great start, 10-2, and then like also did some good things in the rest of November and December. But the rest of the time, they've been mostly playing 500 basketball for much of the last 2 months. And they are still in 3rd because the Rockets, the Lakers, the T-Wolves are also flawed. They're also flawed teams. So if Denver can just hold on, they can continue to like straighten things out, play a little bit better defense, get Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson back at some point, and then keep it going. There's no guarantee that they can't stay in 3rd. And if they do stay in 3rd, yeah, they'll probably have to play one of the Rockets, Lakers, or T-Wolves. Maybe they play the Suns if the Suns jump. Although, as Cody notes here, Dylan Brooks out for 4 to 6 weeks with a broken hand. Sorry, hopefully you don't hear that. That is a car alarm that is right outside my door. Right outside. It's great. If you are the Nuggets, you want to stay at the 3 seed. You do not want to fall any farther below that. If you're the 3 seed, you can win the title. If you are the 4 seed, you can win the title, but it's going to be really, really challenging. The 3 seed is an easier path. The 2 seed is the easiest path. The 1 seed is impossible. So we will see what happens. But yeah, should be all right. They've got to find some ways to do it. They still have a lot of tough games against OKC, San Antonio. They've got one more game against Houston. They've got one more game against the T-Wolves. They've got 2 more games versus the Lakers. They got to focus up for those. They're not going to go 100% in those games, but can they go above 500 in those games? That'll be a really big deal. Okay, everybody, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Appreciate the love and support on the podcast as always. Thank you for the super chats. Really appreciate that. That does mean a lot to me. Everybody hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. I will talk to you guys tomorrow.